Is it on? It's on. Look at that.
Oh, hi.
Right. So, hello everyone. I am Jay Jones. I am a graduating senior music education major from Leesburg, Virginia. Here, and I have one of the best teachers. I have Mrs. Cara Townsend, who was my former band director at Breeden High School and now serves as the assistant principal at York Middle School here in Yorktown, Virginia.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here today. The topics that you guys are talking about, I'll be very honest, are very valuable for you as you're developing your leadership journey as an educator. So you have an important role in life today to really create change and impact students, whomever you may meet throughout your journey. So I'm excited to have this kind of conversation with you guys.
Woo-hoo. All right, so first to start, kind of like, how do you define classroom management?
Classroom management is very much the structure, okay? For me, and I look at it from two perspectives, obviously as a teacher because I taught for 20 years, I always felt like the classroom was our home, right? Or an apartment in the building, if that makes sense, like an apartment inside of a building of many apartments, if you will. But it's still my apartment, right? So it's your house rules, it's your structure. And within that structure, you have lots of things, right? You have relationships with the people that come in there. You have relationships with them, which is probably the number one thing. But it's also those expectations and defining them in a clear and understandable way where everybody understands what the house rules are, if you will. So as a band director, many times I would literally take time to make sure that we explain that in its entirety. And then I would write it out for students. In the classroom, that looks like your syllabus. So it you're thinking about every little thing from the moment that the student arrives in your apartment or your classroom to the moment that they sit down on the furniture, a desk, a table, a stand, or whatever the case may be, how they're interacting with each other as they're maneuvering throughout your apartment or your classroom, and I'm equating it to that because you'd be very persnickety when it comes to somebody in your space. So you should look at it in that same light. So classroom management to me is those structures that you put in place when you are interacting with people, okay? So again, I think it's important when we're talking about classroom management to really look at building those relationships with people. So many times for me as a classroom teacher, I would take the time with students and I took them and put them in the woods, which I know that sounds really weird as a teacher, but because I wanted them to be able to depend on each other. So I would set expectations. I'd find my strong leaders right from the start, tell them what my expectations are in black and white for them and for everybody else, and then ask them to help me develop what we need for our group that we had together. So it wasn't just me. Many times I'd sit down with my leaders and we would plan those rules. And then we would have to teach them. So I had 2 weeks in band camp, not only teach the music, but what our expectations were, what we were about, what the rules were going to be in our house. So regardless of where we go, it's like, you're not going to act crazy even if you're outside because you represent us, our core, our family, our thing. And then after establishing those clear expectations and routines, I would also just try to find ways to figure out how to engage them because it's not even just about the rules as it is how can we learn? How are we going to play school? And that's something that you'll hear me talk about quite a bit as an administrator now, is that I need you to learn to play school. There are certain rules in this big apartment complex, and that's the role that I'm in right now, that I need them to understand. I need them to respect the rules of our teachers, and I ask our teachers to lay those out very clearly, but then we also have house rules within the school as well. And so we make sure that those are taught, and they're exclusively taught and re-taught, and not assuming that people understand what your expectations are going to be. You have to be very clear and teach them, just as if you would teach content, you're teaching those expectations as well. So I guess that's what classroom management would be for me. And know that they're not going to always get it, right? So you're always going back and reteaching that if needed as situations occur, okay? But those house rules should always be established in some way, shape, or form.
That's impressive. So, moreover, we talking about, the 20 years of teaching and how, building between, general education and how you've been a band director, but we also talk about how a good amount of band directors do go into being in the leadership positions like you are in now. So I would ask you then, how do you define the relationships between meaningful work, time on task, in terms of assignments, or in terms of having your students being active in the classroom, and the student disruptions that you might have to encounter?
That's a big question.
It is.
That's a big question. Well, first, let's talk about just the meaningful work and what that kind of looks like. And for me, it's defined through the learning target. So what am I trying to get them to know, right? So I've got to know that first as the instructor. And for me, and particularly in this house, we're big about making sure that that is very clear to students, okay? So it's like, yes, we talked about the expectations of how they should behave or whatever the case may be in the space when we talk about classroom management. But now we're talking about learning intentions, like what you really truly want them to be. And honestly, can I give y'all kind of a hint? Most of the time people think so big. It's like, I got to teach them all of this. When I'm like, what's the one thing that when they leave your class today, they should be able to know? That is meaningful intentions there. That's when you're really thinking, and that's why they call it the learning target. You're targeting in on one specific thing. Now, of course, in music, there's lots of different things, right? We build on lots of skills. Very much in all classes, math classes, English classes, like you're not just saying go write a paper, yeah, I'm just looking at a period to a punctuation today, right? Of course, there's lots of different things. But inside of that meaningful instruction, we're really taking time to really hone in on that learning target so that they understand that. And most of the time, I would post that in the classroom so students always knew. Yeah, we would work on multiple different pieces, but I would tell them today we're going to really work on 16 notes and how we understand how to count those, read those, and such. That would be my intention. Or, and that may be for 15 minutes, and then we'll shifting, and I'm like, okay, I'm really looking at articulation today and how we're articulating that note. So we're able to define that, know that, play it, demonstrate that, and I used a lot of the we do, you do method when I'm trying to look at that intention and meaningful work as far as students are concerned. You also asked a little bit about time on task. I would clearly define the lesson plan that I'm asking those students to do at that time. So a typical day, and maybe we'll walk around the building and you can see some things here since you're in our building, and they're not here right now. But we can walk around and take a look, because on our board, inside you will see the learning target, then the agenda. So when you're talking about time and how we're using that time, every student in here should know what they're going to be doing. So it's labeled in the room. The learning target, this is what you're going to learn. This is what we're going to be doing today, and this is what your outcome should be. So that's clearly defined, and this kind of goes back to that classroom management, where they know if you're prepared and you set those expectations, and they walk in that room and it looks very clear as far as the meaningful work, and they know what the learning target is, then they're going to be a lot more successful because they know what the expectations are, right? It's like, I know what the game is. I know how to play the game, so I can play the game. So I guess hopefully I answered you.
Yes, actually, you answered that very well. But that really wonderfully bleeds into the next question. But I want to also outline how you started in elementary school, correct?
I did.
All right, so even more in that aspect, and teaching for a very long time, and being as award-winning as you are, because I still remember 2019 Teacher of the Year for York County Schools, even though I couldn't get in the video.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in a different class. But, yes, in terms of new and upcoming teachers, what is one strategy you believe every teacher should employ for effective classroom?
I think you need to be very clear. You need to establish and write out from the moment, like I said from the beginning, the moment they hit your door, what is that going to look like? What do you expect? Okay. You got to teach what you expect so that you can get what you asked for, right? So I would tell my students, and to be fair enough, two different things. With elementary, it was I need a clear line outside my door. That lets me know that you're ready to be focused. So we're lined up against the wall, and we're quiet, and we're ready to roll. And I would wait until I get that before they can even enter that space. For my high schoolers, it was a little different because obviously they're changing classes and such. And I would tell them, you remember 2.5 minutes to get in my room ready to roll. That was my expectation. Ready to roll looks like you have your music stand out, you have your chair out, you have your music ready to go, your instruments up, and you're warming up. Not running into my room at the last minute. I never put up with that. Not with high school, because, to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late. To be late is unforgivable. Unacceptable. Do you remember that? So funny. Because that was taught, right? So I would clearly think about everything, even down to when it was elementary. Where did I want them to put their stuff? Okay, so when they came in their room, or band kids knew when they came into the room at the high school, all your book bags go up along the wall because I don't want you dealing with that. I just want your instrument, your music and stuff. Everything else is to the side because I need you to focus in my space. So I would define that, and I would say, okay, when you come in my room, your book bags go over here, and then you walk into, and I would call it the sacred place, right? This is where we do our work, right? And I would establish those things with the students. So it wasn't just me. Obviously I would guide them through that, but we would talk about that and we would teach that so that they knew how to get into the space and how to get out of the space. Then they knew, okay, she's going to always have up on the board. We had a goal sheet in high school, so every student had that, remember, where it said, this is what we're going to work on every week. They never had to guess. They always knew. So it would be funny, days that I wasn't even there, kids knew what they were doing. I never had a problem getting a sub because the kids knew this is what we're supposed to do today. And it got done because I told them it doesn't matter. The world is still revolving every moment. I do expect you guys to get these things done. So how that happened was being very clear and intentional in my planning, right? So prior to that, I would literally think about exactly what I want them to do prior to them getting into my space. And that's the Sundays, Saturdays, whatever my planning period. I'm sitting down and intentionally thinking about what I want them to do during that day. That's for elementary, and I will tell you middle school, that's what I'm at now, believe it or not. So I did elementary and high school, but I'm now in middle school, and that's it, where you're really being very specific in regards to what you want them to do. So have the plan from the moment they get in your room to the moment they leave. And every minute should be accounted for. Every minute. Right? And I would overplan, to be honest. I knew, things would happen, but I'd overplan and I'd tell them, okay, guys, well, next class, we got to come in focus because we're a little behind, based upon what the plan was. But the kids always knew what the plan would be.
Beautiful. All right, so
plan it out, guys.
Hey. Now, when it really boils down to it, you've outlined that you've done all three levels of the schools, but because you've done all three levels, I think you probably can resonate with this question more. How do you differentiate between disruption and a symptom of a larger challenge when it comes to students?
Disruptions is a communication, right? Everything is communicating something to you, right? So example would be, and I will say this openly because middle school, there's lots of weird things that happen, right? They're going through a lot. Right? And so if they're making outbursts in your class, if they're doing something of that nature, they're trying to communicate something. Now, you're clearly putting out your expectations of what you want, what you need. But, they're kids and they're going to buck up against the system, right? So with that being said, I always like to not make a moment in that moment. Now here we have something called refocus forms in the middle school. So that's a little different. That's a school-wide, again, our rules, if that makes a big house rules. And so what the concept of the refocus forms is giving the student an opportunity to kind of discuss at that moment, right? So when you see these awkward disruptions, like a kid outburst in class or just doing something to try to get attention, right? You go over, you gently say something like, hey, that's not cool. We need to be on this task or whatever the case. And I always say, try to redirect them to what you need them to do. Now, of course, you're going to have the little knuckleheads that are like, no, right? I always say, address it and then move on. But then go back and address it. And I'll be honest, for me, and this was elementary, middle school, and high school, and I still use this, I call it wall talk, right? So as they were coming in, I'd go back and address them because sometimes you call them out about it. Obviously, you have to call them out, right? But you try not to make the big scene because often they get in power struggles, and I never really like that, right? Because that never fares out really, really well. So I address them quietly. It's like, hey, I have this problem, blah, 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 blah. I need you to move on. And then move on. Now, if they continue, you go back, you address it again. Maybe you say, hey, I want to move you over to this area, whatever the case may be. But your goal is to get them back on the learning target, right? But then, for me, my students got used to wall talk, and even here in the middle school, and I'm like, look, I heard about this yesterday, or I saw this yesterday, or I saw this, like, I'll catch them in the hallway, and I'm having a one-to-one with that kid. Now they don't have the audience to get hype about, but they also have to really talk to you and hold accountable to you. Actually, we just switched to that this year, and our discipline has gone down completely in this building by like 50%. It's crazy. Because when you're having to have that conversation with that kid one-on-one and taking that time to let them know that, one, your job is to teach them, their job is to learn, you still love them and you still care about them, but what you were doing was not okay, then, and try to find out what the why is for that, all of a sudden you'll have a whole different type of kid. I mean, my staff has immediately told me there's such a huge difference. In high school, I did something similar to that as well. Like when kids came through and they're coming through the hallway, I'm greeting them at the door. Every kid was greeted by me at the door in some way, shape, or form. Hey, Jay. Hey, so-and-so. How you doing? You know, hey, come on over here. Jay, I noticed you didn't do, or whatever. I'd have that conversation right from the start. And then, you know, I always ended with something like, hey, I still care about you. I still love you, but I need you to do better. You know what I mean? And have that one-on-one with them. That builds that relationship that I need with that child, but that also sets that expectation. But then also, guys, I ain't afraid of parents. And I'm going to tell you this. If I can give you any advice as a new teacher, don't be afraid of parents, okay? And the reason being is because they're very effective if you communicate. But you can't communicate at the last minute when they got in trouble. So you have to communicate all the way through. So I would have meetings with parents at the beginning of the year, good or bad or indifferent. I tell them we're always going to do this together because my goal is to do what's right for your kid. I just want to be a part of their village, right, and what they're doing. So I really believed in that as far as the band program is concerned, as a village effect. So I would always bring families around through the good and the bad. So my other thing with that is really create that relationship not only with the kid, but with the family. Quick ways to do that, and I always tell my teachers, send a quick little email at the beginning of the school year. Hey, really excited to get to have Jay in your class, in my class today. And find that one thing. Jay is really cool. Every morning, he's so mannerful. He says good morning to me every morning. It brightens my day. You know, a parent just loves to hear that. So then if I go back and I have to say, hey, there's a problem, they already know that I'm coming from a place of care, not a place of I'm coming to get your kid. So I would say for the new teacher, learn to balance that as well and really create that village relationship between both. Okay, hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, bringing back a lot of memories.
Oh, man.
Right, so probably one of our last questions. Can you share a personal story, more of like a before and after scenario, illustrating how a management technique of yours improved the learning environment?
Okay. Well, I just gave you one when we talked about the refocus forms, and I will share with you, and I'm going to talk as assistant principal because I had a teacher that was pretty frustrated with a student, right? And what's happening, we're all on these technology things, and you know what kids are doing? Playing video games, right? And so I literally pulled the teacher and the student, because that whole part about having conversation with kids and telling them how you feel and speaking sincerely is so powerful. And the teacher, we all get busy. We do. This is the time of the year everybody's preparing for SOLs. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And I said, I wish we could just take a moment for you to have a conversation with them, because I can see your frustration. And it's wrong. You're exactly right. Cool. He's in trouble, right? Whatever that means, right? Because, of course, I'm going to give him the discipline, but he still goes where? Back to the class, right? And he still has to deal with that teacher. And if that conversation has not been there, then the behavior may happen again, right? So I created the time and the space for them to come and sit down. And that teacher was able to kind of say, look, I think you're a really cool kid, you know, and I'm even interested in the fact that you like video games. And I noticed that, like, this kid was so smart, guys, that he was able to break through our little security wall. He turned it off and turned it back on when he needed to. And we didn't know, because we have his kid. Yeah, that's how smart these kids are. But here's what was important that teacher said to that kid. She said, you know what? You could be an engineer, because the way that you think is so bright. And this is an English teacher. And she said, you have figured out all kinds of ways to get around this. One, I need you to get your schoolwork done, but two, I'm going to find a way for you to get into a coding class so that you can learn how to make that a marketable skill, because you realize you can make a lot of money doing that. And that kid looked at her like, what? And she goes, you're smart, obviously. So the power of conversation, the power of belief, and her letting that kid know that she believes in him, even at his worst. And you know what he said to her? He's like, man, I could have just done the work first. He goes, your work was really easy. I should have just done it. She's like, yeah, you do that. And then what I will do is work on getting you in that class next year. So it wasn't me. I know this was not an example necessarily of me. Yes, I've had lots of examples of kids doing lots of different things, and that's for another time and another day. But I wanted to use one where I think is practical, that it does happen, the littlest things, but that power of relationships and conversation is more important than anything in those moments when it's difficult with that student. And again, the difference was we removed him out of that scenario, so he didn't have those peers around him, so that's important. And then just being a little vulnerable in the light of showing that kid that you actually care about that kid. It's not just another one that I'm writing up because you're getting on my last nerves and I've told you 20 times. Like, kids they know how you feel. And so just being truthful and such, and we've seen change. So that's what I would say. That would be my advice as far as that management and such. But as far as classrooms, the whole classroom, man, your classroom is yours, right? And for me, when I think of my band world, we lived on the world of Suda. I always believed in the family effect, and he's laughing, right? Suda, what does that mean?
Spirit, unity, discipline, attitude.
That's right, right? And so that was something that was taught. I have kids that, I'm turning 50. Don't tell me about it, right? So I have a lot of kids that come by, and you won't believe that I can be in different cities. Like, I've been in different cities, and all of a sudden I hear Suda, and it's one of my kids, and that lets me know that they understand that spirit is there. The unity of our group will always be there because we're disciplined in how we do, and we always keep our attitude in check so that we're humble for everything that happens for us. And that's who we are, right? And that's who my kids are, and that's taught, and that's not more than taught. That's love, and that's the care, and that's the magic. So I think you finding your own little thing. My husband is a principal, and his thing is heartbeat. Like he will say heartbeat, and his entire school will start to do the heartbeat because they understand that. He goes, you're a part of my heartbeat. We can all move together, but we got to move together. So, you find your thing. You find your thing that's going to work for you with your classroom, but hold your expectations and be strong about that. Don't be willy-woggly with that, right? Be clear. Be very, very clear. And teach it. They're going to make mistakes. Teach it, reteach it. Even if it's not working, go back and reteach it, and maybe have them help you reteach it. Have them be a part of that, building that expectation so that they take some ownership of that as well. Because I tell you, every one of my students took ownership to that program in our classroom because of that. So that would be my advice.
Right. Well, you've heard it here. A lot of knowledge, a lot of pouring in, and we've talked about not only relationship building, we've talked about classroom management, every little detail, and how she's not only risen from being with the elementary, but now she's an administrator. So this really goes to show everything that we talk about, not only in the classroom and the books, but the material that we talk further into about how do we execute the job and do the best for our students. So that's about good enough for our Jones Townsend TED Talk. Thank you all for watching.
Hey, well, hold on. Let me say this. If you are ever in a situation when you're getting ready for an interview, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to tell you, I got my job based upon a little conversation similar to like this, where I was sitting in with some people, and this guy says, have you ever prepared for your interviews? And I didn't think about it from that perspective. But I don't mind being that resource. Jay knows how to get in touch with me. So anytime, please feel free. Even if you just want to come hang out in the school and see what it's like, I'd love to see you. So, anyway.
That's all right. Dr. Duncan, you heard it here first. So I'll make sure to get all the info. And, I think we got a dance to get ready for.
I know. We got to go. He's helping with the middle school dance. Okay.
All right. So, thank you all. Be blessed. Hope to see you all soon.
Bye.